One of my favorite kind of subgenres for movies and TV shows is the post-apocalyptic. And what do I mean by the post-apocalyptic? I mean those movies or shows that treat, of some disaster, whether it's zombies, contagion, or aliens, that destroys the order that we currently enjoy and leaves characters just trying to survive. And this subgenre includes movies and shows like I Am Legend with Will Smith, or World War Z, The Walking Dead, Oblivion, and a ton of other ones. And they seem to be cranking out, new, movies every single year. And it's funny because when I want to watch that directory, Monsignor Deutsch never wants to watch them. He does not like this genre. And he explained to me once why he doesn't like it is because it hits too much to home with him. He's what we call a prepper. I don't know if you ever heard that term before. So that means he's someone who's like who wants to be ready when the apocalypse comes. And so when he goes out to the store and he buys pasta, we're like, oh, we need pasta, we need some bucatini. He'll come back with like 10 or 15 boxes, just getting prepared, for the worst. And so, but nonetheless, I really enjoy this genre. And so I was kind of thinking, why is this attractive? Why is this genre so popular? What makes us enjoy these stories so much? And I believe that people, kind of like these stories, these post-apocalyptic stories, for their simplicity. They're just simple focus on survival because, we live in a society that has survival down pretty good. And so our days are often filled just, with a multitude of decisions and actions that are very distant from survival and seem pretty inconsequential. We live in a world of taxes, of traffic and bills, and at times we can desire to, kind of want to escape, to get to some simpler world, and we kind of see this in this genre. We want sometimes a world where, we don't have to choose from 100 different, cereal boxes. We just eat what's in front of us, or where we have to wait in the line at the DMV to get registration for our car so that we could wait in other lines with our car for coffee, food, and work. There's just something attractive about a world in which the only thing we have to worry about is survival. But the reality is that we're kind of already living in a post-apocalyptic world, if you kind of think about it. We live in a fallen world where things are not as they should be. Something's off, and we all know this. Theologically, we call it concupiscence, that inclination to sin. And through the echoes of the centuries, we hear that there was a time when things were not as they are now. Our scriptures speak to the Garden of Eden when things were as they should be, when we walk side by side with our Creator in the garden. So yes, there's a certain attraction to this survival genre because of the simplicity of survival, but the reason why we keep coming back to it, why it keeps producing more movies every single year, is the stark moral contrast it provides. How in the darkness of a world gone mad, hope shines out all the more. It's the hope that we're really attracted to in these stories. And here's how it usually plays out. In these stories, there's always some moment of despair where the protagonist questions why he or she is still just fighting for survival. It's icky, it's gross, there's a lot of death, and it's ugly. And in this moment, of despair, that protagonist always bumps into the cure. Some other character who has immunity and who provides hope to the protagonist that the evils of this world might be undone, that things might return to the way they were. And it's this hope that calls the protagonist to heroicism, to risk and sometimes lay down his or her life in order that this cure might be made available to all. This trope, this plot line, it's not a fiction, but the reality of our lives. There is a cure. There is a hope for us in the midst of sin and this fading world, and he has a name, Jesus Christ. And today we hear about his transfiguration, about Jesus revealing his glory to his beloved apostles, which is his way of strengthening and fortifying them for the hard times that lay ahead with his crucifixion. He says, "Behold, there is something much greater here than Elijah and Moses. I am God, and you now get to see what will one day be." And Peter, awed by this glory, wants to remain in it. And it's hard to blame him for this because it is glorious. It is the answer. It is the cure to the sadness and weight of this world. So he's wondering, why can't I just remain here on this mountain? Why must I descend? In all these, post-apocalyptic stories, there's always these oases that the protagonists reach. Some town or place that has hot showers and other creature comforts that resemble life before things changed. And there's always a desire and temptation to remain in these oases, but the protagonists always move on. They are moved on by hope, by mission, as much as they might want to remain. They have to get to work. Today here at Mass, we find ourselves in oases. Today we are on Mount Tabor, and we have escaped the madness of our world for a time and are in a place where our hope is restored, where we see the cure, where Jesus, in a way, is transfigured before us when the bread and wine is transformed into his body and blood, the cure to our sins and the sins of the world. In this amazing transformation, this display of glory, we see the future, we see our destiny, that just as God transforms the very, matter of bread and wine, he so desires to transform us, to divinize us and renew the face of the world. Lord, it is good that we are here, but we cannot remain here as much as we might like. We've got work to do. We have a mission. We have the cure, and it's not ours to greedily hoard, but to share with the world. We need to go out and bring it into the darkness that lies outside this oasis, the sanctuary, to share the good news with the world. That there is a cure to death, and he has a name, and he loves us, and he so humbled himself, taking on the weakness of our human flesh, and enduring, all the darkness of suffering, so that we might have life and share this life with others. The very structure of the Mass even reflects how we have to move on, how we can't remain on this mountain. We have to go out. We receive the Eucharist, we receive the cure, and do we sit around, in contemplation and prayer, a long time after we've already received the Eucharist, and build tents? No. The priest says a quick prayer, gives a blessing, and then he says, go in peace. And, to kind of put this a little bit more harshly, what the priest is saying with it, go in peace is kind of, go on, you got work to do. Go on, get out there, Take what you have received, be restored in hope, and share it with the world. Because there are just so many out there sick with sin and despairing, and who so desperately need the hope and life you have received today in the Eucharist. So be transformed by Christ and go out and transform the world.